welcome back to Sunday Square Off. The allegations of sexual harassment at the Arizona legislature are bipartisan. It all started with Republican State Representative Michelle Ugenti-Rita making her allegations public about 3 weeks ago. And here's what Democratic State Representative Isela Blanc of Tempe tweeted: 40% of the legislature is comprised of women, yet the culture of harassment is pervasive, perhaps a systemic issue. Representative Blanc joins us now this morning. Welcome back to Square Off.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. Thank you. Harassment
is pervasive, you said. What has your experience been?
So my experience goes back to March, where I was asked to speak with the chairman and then threatened with removal.
A committee chairman? A
committee chairman,
yes.
The
committee you sit on?
Yes.
And that was Representative Bob Thorpe of Flagstaff?
It was.
And this has been publicized, so we're not...
Yes, it has been publicized.
...spilling any beans here, yeah.
Right.
And he, as I understand it, he was trying to shut you up.
Pretty much, yes. So the goal and the intent of talking to me in the hallway was to let me know that I was going to have to sit there and not ask questions.
And how was that resolved?
So that's a really great question. He did end up apologizing at the end, but I was satisfied with the apology. However, the reality is that when we talk about the Arizona State Legislature, it's a power dynamic. And so the people with the power can create the rules to the game.
And this is the interesting thing about dealing with the legislature. We heard some of that in my interview with J.D. Mesnard. You are all free agents. Nobody's the boss of any one of you.
Right.
Except the group to some extent. It looks like it'll be ultimately the group that may mete out any punishment. So what kind of problems does that create?
So the reality is...
Because it's not a workplace.
No, it's not a workplace. But if we really want to resolve this systemic issue, I know that Speaker Mesnard has the power to take away chairmanships, to really send a strong message.
So then it becomes, we always seem to end up back at the political issues. We just heard Speaker Mesnard say ultimately it'll be the body as a whole, the chamber as a whole, that's going to have to decide how to punish Don Shooter, for example, if it comes to that. How comfortable are you with that?
So that's interesting, and I would say that I believe Speaker Mesnard has the opportunity and the ability to choose to remove someone from a chairmanship and ask them to resign, and that would not require a 2/3 vote. So I could be wrong.
Yanking a chairmanship.
Yes.
And for folks who don't know just what that would mean symbolically, explain. Why is a chairmanship that important?
Because that is where the person holds the power. So when we talk about Don Shooter, he's a chairman of the Appropriations Committee. And so there's a reason, as mentioned by Representative Ugenti-Rita, she was afraid that her bills would be held. And so she would not have the opportunity to, represent her constituents.
And appropriations handles the budget and handles the money.
The money.
You want money for your constituents.
And that's a lot of power.
It all goes through that person.
And that's a lot of power.
So I'm sure you've heard the expression, politics ain't beanbag.
I have not.
Well, there it is. Okay. It ain't beanbag. And that's another side of this. It's a rough sport in there, leaving out sexual harassment that might intrude. So how do you separate that from the sexual harassment allegations and the retaliation that goes on against members that doesn't even involve sexual harassment?
Right.
I don't like you, I'm not hearing your bill.
And it's a power play, right? So as Democrats, very few of our bills are heard. So again, how do we create a structure that is respectful? And I can name, committee chairmen that have been incredibly respectful and colleagues across the aisle that know what respect looks like. And they also agree that there should be an opportunity of fairness, of allowing true bipartisanship and allowing bills from both sides to be heard.
Okay, and I want to end by going back to your comment, culture of pervasive harassment.
Yeah.
So when you go back in January, what do you think the atmosphere is going to be like there?
You know what? I think it certainly is going to be very interesting. I can't say specifically. What I do know is for myself, a person, I'm still going to have a positive attitude because I have worked with colleagues, again, across the aisle that are incredibly respectful. And I, will encourage Representative Mesnard to, these people represent model behavior, and they are Representative Rivero, who is a committee chairman, and also Representative Drew John, in my opinion. So, there's some positive.
So you want modeling behavior out there?
Yes.
It is. There are good people.
There are good people.
And many good people.
Yes. And so I am hopeful. But again, if we're really serious about resolving this culture of harassment, there are things Speaker Mesnard has the ability to do.
All right. Representative Isela Blanc, thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you.